Good afternoon, I'm Herman Green with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching online at onespotmedia.com. The Jamaica Agricultural Society, JAS, says working with the 4-H movement, the society will be leading a move to create a national food production plan. This is expected to help stem any fallout from global disasters and emergencies like the current COVID-19 crisis. JAS President Lenworth Fulton warns that Jamaica's food production is now under threat because of the coronavirus. He says farmers are afraid to go out to farm.
And leave the children, and they have to use taxis, and some of them are fearful to go into taxi, and they don't work enough to hire a taxi to work. So yes, those who can walk and ride bicycle are coming, and even those can't come sometime because they have to alternately stay with the children who are now at home.
He's encouraging farmers to follow other critical health protocols like regular hand washing to protect themselves from the virus.
Those who are over 75, be very careful. I know some of you are still in the field and you still have to tend to your cattle, but we ask you to be extra cautious in doing so.
Now, at least one local economist feels quick changes to the energy and agriculture sector could give Jamaica a chance at emerging positively from this global economic crisis. More in this report from Dwayne Anderson.
Yes, it is going to be severe.
Economist Dr. Andre Horton warning that a 3% contraction of the Jamaican economy could carry severe consequences for Jamaicans. He was responding to a projection from the central bank about the country's prospects for this year. But Dr. Horton, who is also a PNP senator, does not think it is all doom and gloom, especially because we have time to put in place safeguards. But he says we must act right now. He proposed small to large-scale farming of crops that need just a few months to reach maturity. This, he feels, could help with the demand that could come should imported goods remain unreliable.
We have to think about policies now that one will attack production from primary, secondary, and tertiary point of view. So we could know what's saying a lot of the idle lands, if they don't have any owners, we put programs in place for people to begin farming them now.
Following that, the state could then lighten the energy bill faced by all Jamaicans. This, according to The Economist, would give business people the encouragement to boost output at their factories and plants.
If I were the government, I would have taken the route of reducing the SDT that were imposed on fuel from 2015, 2016 to 2017. That would be to the tune of about $26 billion. In this case, it would be about $26 per litre. And that would put a real fall in the cost of energy now for our manufacturers and our transportation industry, for our services, so a lot of people, households also would benefit, the BPO would benefit. In that case, we would combat from an economic point of view a negative global supply shock with a positive domestic supply impetus.
On Thursday, the central bank announced it had injected $57 billion into the market. Dr. Horton has taken note of the move, but he warned about the presence of too much money should goods get scarce.
Too much money chasing too few goods might also have a negative impact on the amount that people can consume. So it's just the government to think about where we are and use supply-side policies that are geared towards expanding supply rather than policies that are geared towards increasing consumer demand.
Dwayne Anderson, TVJ News.
The St. Anne's Bay Infirmary will now have to double its efforts to ensure the residents are taking the necessary precautionary measures to deal with COVID-19. The matron at the facility told TVJ News they are facing hurdles because some persons are physically and mentally challenged. Shamela Pullen reports.
The St. Anne's Bay Infirmary in Priory St. Anne has been housing over 100 residents. Matron at the facility, Ita Miles Vickers, says most of these residents come in with various underlying medical conditions, including non-communicable diseases, NCDs.
About 80% of the population suffers from the chronic illnesses like diabetes, high blood pressure, Alzheimer, epilepsy, and so on. So those are some of the challenges that would affect them negatively if they would if they come in contact with this coronavirus.
And with those challenges and the present situation with COVID-19, the matron says they have to be doubling up on their efforts to ensure that the necessary precautionary measures are taken. But in addition to the medical conditions of these residents, some also are physically and mentally challenged.
We have decided that if for any reason they started to cough, they would have to take them out of the area, put a mask on them. So they would not be able to understand why you're doing all of this. So we'd have to monitor them to ensure, they're not able to cover their mouth if they're coughing, if they're sneezing. So we'd have to do that for them.
Meanwhile, staff members will also have to do their part to protect themselves. The matron said there are strict guidelines which they have to follow for safety reasons.
Okay, we have a 3-shift system. So at the beginning of each shift, the workers who are coming in, there's an area where they go and sanitize themselves, get their hands washed, sanitize, change their street clothes, put on the clothes, put on the uniform and the gears before going onto the ward. So when they leave the ward, they come back to that same area, sanitize themselves before they go home.
Shamela Pullen, TVJ News.
The self-quarantine measure that was put on a family in Pembroke Hall, St. Andrew, has now been lifted. Councillor for the UNN division, Andrew Harris, who came to their defense because of stigmatization in the community, gave an update on their situation.
And I am happy, and even happier, I should say, to tell you that all the persons who were quarantined are okay. They're fine. They have even gotten a letter from the Ministry of Health to indicate so.
Earlier this month, the family was placed under self-quarantine after a relative came into contact with one of the early cases of COVID-19 in Jamaica. Councillor Harris made a passionate plea on social media after community members reportedly started discriminating and scorning the family's relatives when they were seen in public. Mr. Harris is again appealing to the public to be kind, even while acknowledging the Health Ministry's social distancing guidelines.
Don't treat our family members and our neighbors like they have leprosy. Remember, they are our own people, our brothers and sisters. So whenever you see them, try and embrace them as best as you can, but stand your distance, which is 5 to 6 feet, right? For everybody, not just them, for everybody. So when I say embrace, I don't mean go and hug them up, but I mean treat them accordingly. But they're fine, they're doing good. I spoke with them just not too long ago, and they're all doing good. And
the total loss in revenue for the local entertainment industry could be significant as the coronavirus pandemic intensifies across the country. Cultural commentator Clyde McKenzie says key players in the local entertainment industry are now finding it difficult to generate income. Entertainment events and tours are being cancelled as part of the effort to stem the spread of COVID-19. He explains that COVID-19 is not only affecting the industry, but also its ecosystem.
Anybody who provides support services for the musicians and the artists, they are affected. So, and then the ecosystem around the entertainment, for example, the dances, we had, wedding, we had one of these events, these major dance events, basically every night. I jokingly said we needed to look for some more nights to stage these events. Now you find that they're all shuttered.
Mr. McKenzie was speaking on TVJ's Smile Jamaica program this morning through Skype. He believes the impact of the virus on the industry could have been reduced if contingency plans were put in place early. Therefore, he has this suggestion.
What might need to be put in place is personal setting aside of income to deal with these eventualities. And that might mean that this might have to be something that is administered whether by some music or entertainment related organization, industry organization, maybe in conjunction with the government. And of course it would maybe require some kind of contribution from the individual artists.
Following hours of service disruption this week, telecommunication company Flow says it's now ramping up measures to ensure connectivity is maintained during the coronavirus crisis. Country manager at Flow Jamaica, Stephen Price, says globally, internet traffic has increased significantly since the COVID-19 outbreak. He was also speaking on TVJ's Smile Jamaica program this morning.
We've been responding and actually adding sites and adding all these stuff, So over the past, let's say, 6 or 7 days, we've added about 20 gigs of off-island capacity to make sure that we're supporting that.
And what does that mean?
It means you have more persons are able to access more data coming in.
Okay.
Right? So even though the traffic is ridiculous at this point, yes, some customers will have a slowdown in some highly congested communities. But the fact is, we're doing everything to continue to size the network.
And we now take a break here on the Midday News. We'll be right back. Welcome back, continuing the news. Are Jamaicans taking social distancing seriously? Despite a reduction in business hours, closures of some entertainment centers, and restrictions on the number of persons allowed to gather, Port Maria Mayor Richard Creary believes there is still a major concern.
The businesses have been adhering to the 20, now it has reduced to 10 persons, 20 persons at the time in a location. As I said, now reduced to 10. But what you find is that persons lined up on the outside, because the businesses are accepting a certain number at a time. But those persons lined up on the outside, you find that they do not practice this safe social distancing.
While speaking with TVJ News recently, Mr. Creary said despite the warnings, some persons are still not taking the measure seriously.
You find it not only in the towns, even other persons that you interacted, when you suggest it to them, they think it is, it is not that serious. So we just have to try and continue educating persons as best as we can so that they will take it seriously. But that is one of the measures that is critical in the fight against COVID-19. We have to practice safe social distancing.
In the meantime, he says the St. Mary Infirmary has started implementing changes as set out by the government regarding employees.
A lot of our staff members, we have done a roster. Some persons who can work from home will be working from home. I have asked this morning to look at if we have any persons over the age of 65, as was suggested by the Prime Minister, that those persons stay home. We might not have any such person, but we are still checking on that.
To other news now, a total of 6 persons are now homeless in St. Elizabeth after their homes were gutted in 2 separate fires in the parish on Wednesday. More in this report from Dwayne Anderson.
Flames punctuate the night sky in burnt Savannah in St. Elizabeth. A family's home was on fire. 2 units from the Santa Cruz and Black River Fire Departments responded to the blaze. Residents also tried, but it was all in vain.
It was about 7:15 last night while sitting on my veranda. I saw 2 men running across my fence like there was a commotion. And I heard some sound. So I went inside, looked through my window across to my neighbor's house, and I saw a fire. So I ran outside, tried to get my hose and so forth. And then the rest of the community members who were nearby came around and we were trying to get it out, but we couldn't.
Uncertainty lingers over what might have started the fire.
I say it's alcohol youth when he go. And it's like from what he just decide say he want to catch a place of fire, and catch it first and out it. And catch it back a fire again. And I just say work out. Couldn't save nothing at all, but serve ticket, national ID, the team bonus.
Investigators from the fire department are still doing their checks. They have not yet determined the official cause of the fire. Loss is estimated at close to $3 million. In the meantime, there was another fire in St. Elizabeth on Wednesday, this time in Brompton. Loss in that fire is estimated at over $10 million. The cause of the fire is not known. The dwelling was occupied by 1 person. Dwayne Anderson, TVJ News.
Detectives in St. Anne are this afternoon still trying to establish the motive behind the murder of a 69-year-old St. Anne businesswoman in Ocherius last night. Earl Dean Henry Brown, a justice of the peace for the parish and an operator of Exchange Crystal Hardware, was at her place of business about 2:15 yesterday afternoon when a man entered the establishment, brandished a firearm and shot Miss Henry Brown in the upper body. He then escaped. She died on the spot. Now, members of the community have condemned the shooting. Reggae crooner and songwriter Keith Bob Andy Anderson is dead. He was 76 years old. It's reported that he had been ailing for some time. He died this morning at his Stony Hill St. Andrew home. We go on to news from the region. Bermuda's tally of confirmed coronavirus cases more than doubled overnight to 15. Premier David Burt said 40 more results had been received, of which 8 were positive, bringing the total positive cases in Bermuda to 15. 4 cases arrived on British Airways flights from London's Gatwick Airport, 2 on March 15 and 1 each on March 17 and March 20. Now, 3 other cases were described as limited local transmissions and 1 remains unknown. Bermuda's International Airport and seaports are officially closed until early next month. And that's where we end the midday news. But remember, join us at 7 for the primetime news package. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, I'm Herman Green. Good afternoon.